Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today on the show, there's a new article that says the Pittsburgh Steelers should trade T.J. Watt for wide receiver Terry McLaurin. I'll break down that at the top of today's show. Then we'll get into a Steelers insider who says that the Pittsburgh Steelers only have one wide receiver target this offseason, and it's make or break when it comes to this target. And then we'll finish up today's show by talking about the media's reaction to Aaron Rodgers' announcement that this is going to be his final NFL season. So make sure you guys stick around to see what the media has been saying about the new Steelers QB1. But Trader Joey, all right, you guys know Trader Joey quite well. He's our Ravens host. He bet me today that we couldn't get 100 new subs on today's show. All right, and I said, I definitely think we can. Joey is here to produce today's video, and he has a little message for Steelers Nation. So, Joey, you don't think that we can do this, can you?
What's up, bitches? I think there's literally 0% chance. If there's one thing I know about Steelers and Steelers fans, they're just good at being mediocre.
Yeah.
And to get 100 subs on video, you got to be great. I don't think you got it in you.
Well, he's wagering, guys, a tortilla slap on tomorrow's Steelers Talk live show. Trader Joey is going to be producing our live show tomorrow. So if we can add 100 new subs on today's show, and it's got to be new subscribers, guys, I'm going to slap the crap out of Trader Joey in the face with a tortilla tomorrow on Steelers Talk Live. It all starts at 5 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, so make sure you click that subscribe button and join us at 5 p.m. Eastern to see me slap Joey Peterson. All right, so let's get into our first story of the day here, which is a Fox Sports article from David Helman, who suggests that the Pittsburgh Steelers could trade T.J. Watt in exchange for Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin before the start of the season. This is what Helman had to say in his article. If Washington were to trade Terry McLaurin, they'd be opening some financial wiggle room to add another lucrative player. They could get at least 2, if not 3 years of play out of Watt before they have to worry about extending Jayden Daniels. They definitely need pass rush help. Watt would give Dan Quinn a blue chip player, which he doesn't really have right now on his Commanders defense. Now, it seems like David is making the case for the Commanders to get T.J. Watt, and if I'm the Commanders, I definitely want Watt because I think he's the best defensive player in football. So absolutely, I would make this deal if I were the Commanders. But if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you cannot afford to let go of T.J. Watt. As good as Terry McLaurin is as a receiver, and I think he's a bona fide top 10 receiver in the game, he's a true number 1 alpha wide receiver, and honestly one of the more underrated receivers in the game. And if he's here with DK Metcalf, that's arguably a top 3 wide receiver duo in football. This defense can't survive without T.J. Watt on there, guys, because he has been the most dominant defensive player in the National Football League since entering the league back in 2017. He's number 1 in sacks with 108. By the way, that's ahead of Myles Garrett with 102.5. He's number 1 in tackles for loss with 126. He's number 1 in forced fumbles by a wide margin at 33. And then he's number 1 in turnovers forced with 40. Okay, so he has been obviously the most valuable defensive player in football since he entered the National Football League. And what this production from Watt gets the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is dominance. Okay, you take a look at his general impact when he's on the field versus when he's not on the field. The Steelers win less than 10% of their games when T.J. Watt doesn't play. They win about 2/3 of their games when he does. And not only does the defense get worse, they give up about a touchdown more when Watt isn't on the field, but the offense gets worse. It's like a 14-point swing when you look at the points per game and opponents' points per game numbers with Watt versus without Watt. That is absolutely massive, the value that one player provides you. Also, the sacks per game and turnovers per game go down pretty significantly as well when Watt isn't on the field. And then if you think that is, outdated or whatever, and you don't think, Watt is still, having that kind of value for the Steelers defense, just last year, after his injury that he suffered versus the Philadelphia Eagles last year, the Steelers didn't win a single football game when they were winning 2/3 of their games with him fully healthy and him dominating the league, and he was the front runner to win Defensive Player of the Year before that injury happened. Again, the points per game and opponents' points per game numbers completely flipped after the injury, and the sacks per game and turnovers per game numbers took a big shift as well. So absolutely, T.J. Watt is an absolute must for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year if they want to compete for a Super Bowl championship. He is their most valuable player, and he's the most valuable defensive player in all of football. And honestly, guys, I think Pittsburgh would be much better off this year keeping and paying Watt the number that he wants and then signing a wide receiver like Amari Cooper versus trading Watt and then getting Terry McLaurin. All right, I think Amari Cooper with DK Metcalf, but you have Watt on the defensive side of the ball would be better than getting rid of Watt and then adding Terry McLaurin to this offense. That's just my personal take. But I absolutely think that is something that could be good for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Mark Kaboly from the Pat McAfee show, he's their Steelers correspondent, tends to agree with me, where he says that he thinks Amari Cooper is the only wide receiver the Pittsburgh Steelers could add to their wide receiver room before the start of the NFL season this year, is what Kaboly had to say this week. I'm at the point now that if it isn't going to be Amari Cooper, that they are just going to roll with what they have and hope Calvin Austin becomes a dog. I do believe Chris Olave, Keenan Allen, and Gabe Davis are long gone from the Steelers' radar. So Kaboly, an insider for the Pittsburgh Steelers, saying this is quite significant here, and it's something to keep your eye on. But I do think Pittsburgh might be willing to add some other wide receiver weapons to their room before the season starts as well. We have seen quite a few reports that the Steelers have inquired about a number of different wide receivers. They made a call to New Orleans about Chris Olave. They also made a call to Green Bay about both Romeo Doubs and Dontayvion Wicks. They also made a call to Tampa Bay for Trey Palmer. And then, of course, you had Gabe Davis come in for a free agency visit. So they're certainly showing interest in some of these wide receivers. And, who knows how long this list is. We don't know every single name the Steelers have called about this offseason. And it's certainly possible that the Steelers have shown interest in Amari Cooper. That's not out of the question, but we haven't really heard anything from any credible sources here that the Pittsburgh Steelers have shown any sort of interest in Amari Cooper so far this offseason. Now, I want to make abundantly clear, I would be totally cool and totally on board if the Steelers wanted to go get Amari Cooper, okay? Remember, Aaron Rodgers is a big fan of Amari Cooper's game. He said it back in 2023 on the Pat McAfee show when Amari Cooper was still a legit number one receiver with the Cleveland Browns, how much of a fan he was of his game. And it's no wonder. I mean, Rodgers loves having these big body route running type of wide receivers. Devontae Adams was that type of guy. Amari Cooper is in that kind of same category of bigger guy with quick feet and really good route running that Rodgers has really thrived with throughout his career. So I think that Rodgers would certainly be on board with bringing in Amari Cooper, but unfortunately it doesn't really seem like the Steelers have shown that much interest in Cooper at this point this offseason. But another possibility here, guys, is that the Pittsburgh Steelers actually feel good with where they are at with their wide receiver room right now, and they are prepared to go into the season with what they have. Right now they have DK Metcalf. I have Roman Wilson listed as the wide receiver 2 here. I'm going to explain why I did that here in just a second. They also have Calvin Austin III, and then Robert Woods is decent depth. Ben Skoranek, really good special teamer and run blocker. And I would personally want to add one more name to this room before the start of the season. But it's, like I said, it's possible that the Steelers like the way that the room is constructed right now. And if that's the case, that tells you that the Pittsburgh Steelers really believe in Roman Wilson. And if this is the case and the Steelers do not add another receiver, Roman is going to have to take a huge leap in year 2. He only had 5 snaps in his rookie season last year, so he's going to have to go from pretty much a non-impact in 2024 to this team's number 2 wide receiver in 2025. And the reason for that is because Calvin Austin III, you guys know how much I love Calvin's game. I think he's one of the more underrated receivers in the game. He's a really good yak threat. I think his hands are underrated. I think he's a really, really good route runner, probably the most underrated route runners in the entire game. And he's got game-breaking speed to take the top off the defense as well. I think he is the perfect wide receiver 3 for this team, but Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator, it is paramount in his offense for his number 2 receiver to be able to run block. Calvin can't do that, which is why a guy like Van Jefferson, who brought pretty much no upside receiver-wise to the offense, outsnapped Calvin by over 100 snaps in 2024. So the Steelers need somebody to fill that number 2 wide receiver role that's better and a better receiver than Van Jefferson, and Roman Wilson could absolutely be that guy. Now, Roman's not the biggest guy in the world. He's 185 pounds, but he's like 20 pounds heavier than Calvin Austin, and what he was known for at Michigan is not only was he a slot technician and their number 1 receiver on a national championship team with the Wolverines, but he also blocks his ass off, guys. That is what he is known for. He's a dog competitor, and he not only blocks with really good technique, but great physicality. He's a perfect fit for that run blocking type of role here, which is probably why Arthur Smith and the Pittsburgh Steelers Steelers felt like this guy has what it takes to be the number 2 receiver in this Steelers offense. So Roman's role this year, guys, what you guys can look for is that when the Steelers go to their 12 personnel packages, so that's 2 tight ends on the field and only 2 receivers on the field, look for Roman to be that second wide receiver out there, not Calvin Austin III, because of the upside Roman brings as a run blocker. And then when they do go to 11 personnel, expect Roman to go into the slot where he is at his best as a wide receiver. And then honestly, Calvin, in my opinion, is best as an outside wide receiver as a Z. So you have a really good setup here. You got DK Metcalf as your true number 1. Then you got Calvin Austin III as the Z, as a speed demon, really good route runner. In your pass-heavy situations, you don't need him to run block, so he's perfect for that role. And then Roman Wilson is in the slot playing that role there, and he is a slot technician. That's what he did at Michigan, and that's what the Steelers are going to want him to do here in Pittsburgh. And essentially what Robert Woods' role is in this Steelers offense, guys, in my opinion, is that he's Roman Wilson insurance. If Roman is not good enough to fill that role this year, the plan is to put Robert Woods out there early in the season on early downs and be that number 2 receiver type that's going to be able to run block, but they would prefer not to have him in that role. Obviously, the ideal situation here is that Roman Wilson earns that job in camp, has it in week 1, and then thrives throughout the 2025 NFL season. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. What is your confidence level in Roman Wilson this year? Put it on a scale of 1, meaning not at all, he's going to suck, to 10 being he's going to be the next Randall Cobb for Aaron Rodgers. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. This will be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And also, we're going to tell you about our sponsor today at Fanatics. And while I talk about Fanatics today, put your confidence level in Roman Wilson on a scale of 1 to 10. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Fanatics, where if you guys want to be repping the black and gold while also repping the stars and stripes at that 4th of July barbecue you're planning, you can get an awesome Steelers American flag t-shirt today from our friends at Fanatics for a great price, by the way, when you go to chatsports.com/pit. USA. It also helps out the channel here, guys, where not only do you get this shirt, but if you make a purchase using our special link, chatsports.com/PitUSA, Fanatics sends us part of the proceeds here at Steelers Talk. So if you want, a shirt that shows off your patriotism and also your fandom for the Pittsburgh Steelers, go chatsports.com/PitUSA and get a great deal on this t-shirt today. So now let's shift over to the media's response to Aaron Rodgers' appearance on the Pat McAfee show yesterday, where he was asked a question of, is this going to be your final year in the National Football League? And he answered the question. He said, yeah, this is probably it for me. And the media's response to that was he was being selfish for making that announcement yesterday. And the argument goes, and this is like Chris Broussard of Fox Sports, immediately after Rodgers said it, says, oh, he's making this year all about himself by answering a question that he got on the Pat McAfee show. I think this is absolutely ridiculous, okay? And I just think that the media is just grasping for straws, trying to find a negative narrative to bash this guy, because that's what they've been doing for multiple years now, especially since the COVID situation in 2020 in Green Bay. And, these are the same people that had no issue with Derek Jeter announcing that he was going into his final season with the New York Yankees, had a full retirement tour his final season. But hey, they like Derek Jeter, so they're perfectly fine with him getting a farewell tour. Same thing with Mariano Rivera the year before Jeter. Everybody loved it. All right, but when it's Aaron Rodgers, oh no, he said he was immunized, so we can't talk, positively about Rodgers. I just think it's absolute bullshit the way that they talk about Aaron Rodgers, guys. Not to mention, okay, it's not like Rodgers went out there and made a big thing of this. It's not like he went on the McAfee show to make this announcement, all right? Like he talked about some other stuff, talked about the Steelers, his excitement about playing with this team, and then he was asked a question by one of McAfee's co-hosts about whether or not this was going to be his final season, and he answered it honestly, all right? So I don't see any reason why, this is Rodgers making it about himself, or that he's being selfish, or that he's putting himself above the team like the media is talking about today. I think just the truth of the matter is, guys, the media has hated this guy ever since the COVID situation, where he said he was immunized, and, people took that to mean he was vaccinated and all this different stuff, even though the team knew he wasn't vaccinated. Like, people said he put his teammates and their families at risk. I think that's just complete bullshit. All all right, because the team and the NFL knew he wasn't vaccinated. And ever since then, people have hated this guy. And no matter how they have to spin whatever he says into a negative narrative, they are going to do it. This is what I've learned about the media and their relationship with Aaron Rodgers, and I think we just got to get used to it at this point. But I also think, all right, that this announcement and having this clarity that Rodgers is probably only going to be here for one season is a good thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, all right? With the Big Ben kind of situation at the end of his career, and then with the Russell Wilson situation last year in a one-year contract, you didn't have any clarity about the future of the quarterback position with those two guys. But with Rodgers here coming out and saying, hey, this is going to be my 1 year here, and then I'm going to hang it up, the Steelers know, okay, this is a 1 year thing, and then we can plan for the future. And we can look at our options next year and be fully prepared to get the next franchise quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers during the 2026 offseason. So I actually think this is a good thing for the Steelers organizationally. Also, I wouldn't completely rule out Rodgers coming back in 2026. Now, obviously, he sounds pretty sure that this is going to be his final year. And by the way, the media will hate it and will call him a liar if he comes back in 2026 at this point. But I do think that if Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers have a really good season, let's say they win 12, 13 games, win the division, win a playoff game, they're getting really close to, actually, getting to the Super Bowl and winning it, but they come up just short, I could totally see Rodgers saying, hey, I'm still playing at the top of my game. I got a great defense that can support me. Cam Hayward's just got one more year left. I'm going to come back and I'm going to try and get this done for one final season. And I think if anybody on the planet is going to be able to convince Aaron Rodgers to come back for one more season in that scenario, it's probably going to be Mike Tomlin. I mean, Rodgers already talks about Tomlin like he's his best friend in the entire world. And Tomlin is definitely somebody that can be quite persuasive. So if they have a really successful season this year but come up just short of a title and they feel like Rodgers can, be a mentor to a first-round pick rookie in next year's NFL draft, I think that would be the ideal setup. So I guess we'll see what ends up happening here over the next several months. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Is there even a 1% chance that Aaron Rodgers comes back to play for the Steelers in 2026? Give me a yes or a no to finish up today's show. And that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers Talk by Chat Sports. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of today's video. Again, guys, click that subscribe button. If we get to 100 today, I get to slap Joey Peterson, our Ravens host, in the face with a tortilla tomorrow on Steelers Talk Live, which begins at 5 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you click that subscribe button and join us for Steelers Talk Live tomorrow afternoon.